Hey folks, Doug Blake with Body Design University. In this video, I want to talk to you about progressions. Now, it's a term that you'll hear, over and over when you're in the gym or going through any of the course materials that you have available to you. So, the concept of progression, just so you know, it normally goes with regression. So, we talk about progressions, regressions, like during an exercise when you're training somebody and you're trying to do a particular exercise in a certain way with a certain amount of weight. You're trying to increase the amount of load or whatever the case it is. You can talk about progressing them. And then, of course, regression would simply be backing them off on, again, maybe the amount of weight or the position or the type of exercise that's being used. Quite often, we see this in stability or stabilization type of training, but focusing on just the progressions. And I want to give you an idea when you're dealing with the average client where you want to focus your progressions. Now, again, like I was just saying, you can progress a client in many different ways, especially when they're just starting out. You can progress them with the same exact exercises, but using more weight, more resistance. There's nothing wrong with that, and quite often you'll find that when clients first start out training, they have a sort of greater capacity to increase their weights until they get to a certain point where you're simply not going to be able to use a whole lot more weight than from where you ended. So dumbbell curls, you're going to progress people from 5 pounds to 7 to 10 to maybe, but at some point, you're not using 30 pounds and then going to 35 pounds the next week, or right. There's going to be a limit. So you can progress your clients, the average client, with increases in load, right? Just the total amount of weight. And again, you can use that progression just for so long, and then you're pretty much going to tap out. You're not going to get much heavier. So that's one, right? Just increasing overall weight works for a little bit, but I don't tend to put a lot of emphasis on that type of progression. The other type of progression that you can use is just basically adding more repetitions. You're doing the same exercise with the same weight, you're just adding more repetitions. Now, normally we'll see this being used simultaneously with that type of periodization type of scheduling. So you got a certain amount of weight, you do a certain amount of reps, and every time you train, every workout, you try and have them do the same weight with a couple of more repetitions until you get to a predetermined number of reps, 15 reps, 20 reps, and it took you 3 to 4 workouts to go from 12 reps to 20. Now you, of course, can back the number of repetitions down, add some more weight. So that's a progression. But specifically, adding weight is one variable, one type of progression. Adding more repetitions is another type of progression. There is another type of progression that I really like to use, especially with the average client, not an athlete, not necessarily somebody that's a strength athlete, for instance, where we have a more specific goals with getting stronger and more powerful. But the progression we're talking about here are rest times. And I really like to emphasize to trainers to utilize that progression more than any others, because ultimately what I would like to be able to do, along with adding more repetitions to increase muscle endurance, is I really want to help clients to develop the ability to buffer the acidic environment that's created in the blood system through lactic acid, lactate, that builds up because of the resistance training itself, right? Type 2A, type 2B. Muscle fiber usage is going to increase the glycolytic metabolites, right? So lactate. And so that increases the acidic nature of the blood, decreases pH, going to go to the liver. The liver will take care of the balancing out of the pH, but there will be a buffering component. Bicarbonate is the metabolic chemical that's used to buffer acidic environments in the body. And so, what we want to be able to do is to help clients to develop a greater lactate buffering component to their physiology. And the way we do this is by simply decreasing the rest times between the sets and between the exercises that you're doing with your clients. It's a great way to increase overall physical capacity. Now, I'm not saying you don't do the other progressions, But quite often we get caught up in, I want my clients to be stronger. I want them to use more weight. I want to impress them by getting them to use heavier and heavier weights. There's nothing wrong with having them use a little bit more weight. And whenever you can, add a little bit extra resistance, that's great. But again, that taps out. People are not going to continuously get stronger. That's not the graph, right? The graph doesn't always go up. People plateau, especially with the total amount of weight they're using. And remember, I'm not interested in my clients doing triples and fives. I don't go lower than generally 15, 12 reps, 10 maybe for the average client. I mean, if you want to do heavier weight with somebody, but remember, every time you increase load, you increase the injury risk itself. So, load, yes. Increase muscle endurance by adding more repetitions, thereby extending the length of time under tension. That generally increases muscle endurance. And then this overlooked component, which I really like to put in play with my training with clients, is going to be rest time. So decreasing your rest time from one set to the next, from a minute and a half down to a minute or 45 seconds, whatever that number is that you would institute into your training program, that's going to be of benefit. And you should look to that. You're not changing the weight, and you're generally not changing the number of repetitions. You're simply changing or decreasing the amount of time they get to rest. The decrease in rest time is a progression. Remember that. Adding weight is a progression. Keeping the weight the same and adding more repetitions is a progression. Reducing rest time between sets, between exercises themselves, throughout the entire workout, is a progression, a valuable progression that you are definitely going to want to use. And try and think about that first and foremost when you go into your workout. And then you can add the other variables in and do the progressions as you deem appropriate when you're training folks. So I hope this was helpful. If so, please write the word understand in the comment section below. If you have not done so, please subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know if we can help you in any other way. As always, have a great week. We will see you next week. Bye.